You really thought they were playing with you. No. They were playing with your future. They were playing with your name. They were rolling dice on your potential like it was some cheap casino trick. Wake up. Stop scrolling. Stop breathing for a second. Feel that sting in your chest, that tightness, that memory of being underestimated, laughed at, sidelined. Good. Because that's where this begins. They played games. You changed the rules. They smirked when you stayed quiet. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought patience meant fear. They thought your calm was confusion. But what they never understood is this: silence is strategy. While they were gossiping, you were calculating. While they were competing, you were evolving. While they were flexing, you were building something they couldn't even pronounce. You see, average people love games. Games have rules. Rules create comfort. Comfort keeps them safe. But you were never meant to be safe. You were meant to be disruptive. They tried to trap you in their little board game. Move here, stay there, follow this path, wait your turn. You flipped the board. You looked at their system and said, "Why am I asking permission?" That's when it changed. That's when you stopped trying to win their game and started creating your own arena. And here's the part that scares them. You didn't announce it. You didn't warn them. You just shifted. Suddenly their jokes stopped landing. Suddenly their disrespect felt small. Suddenly their opinions sounded like background noise in a room you no longer needed to be in. That's power. Real power is quiet. Real power doesn't beg. Real power doesn't explain itself. It transforms. They played mind games. You mastered your mind. They tried to make you doubt. You turned doubt into discipline. Every time they tested you, they were unknowingly training you. Every betrayal, a lesson. Every rejection, redirection. Every moment they thought they were breaking you. Conditioning. You became dangerous the moment you stopped reacting. Let that sink in. The moment you stopped defending yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You leveled up. You stopped chasing validation. You stopped needing applause. You stopped explaining your ambition to people whose ceiling was your starting line. That's when the rules shattered. Because here's the truth nobody says out loud. When you change the rules, you become the villain in their story. And that's fine. Villains are remembered. They'll say you changed. They'll say you're cold now. They'll say you're too much. Translation: you stopped shrinking. You stopped playing small so they could feel big. You stopped losing on purpose to make them comfortable. You stopped apologizing for your hunger. And now they're uncomfortable. Good. Growth is violent. It tears skin. It reshapes identity. It burns old versions of you alive. You think evolution feels soft? No. It feels like isolation. It feels like loneliness at the top of a staircase you built alone. It feels like outgrowing rooms that once felt like home. But listen closely. The same people who mocked your ambition will one day study your discipline. The same people who doubted your vision will one day claim they always knew. That's how it works. Because when you change the rules, you force everyone else to adapt. You stopped competing. You started dominating yourself. That's the shift. You realized the real opponent wasn't them. It was your hesitation, your fear, your need to be liked. And once you crushed that, game over. They were playing checkers. You built a new game entirely. You stopped reacting emotionally and started responding strategically. You stopped chasing quick wins and started engineering legacy. That's why they feel it. That quiet pressure when you enter the room. that unspoken awareness that you're not the same anymore. That subtle intimidation they can't explain. You're not louder, you're deeper, you're not aggressive, you're intentional. And here's the part nobody prepares you for. When you change the rules, the battlefield changes with you. At first they laugh, then they question, then they watch. Oh, they watch. They start analyzing your silence like it's a coded message. They start replaying conversations, wondering when you shifted. They start feeling that quiet pressure in their chest when your name gets mentioned. Because something about you feels different now. You're not reacting, you're not explaining, you're not seeking, you're selecting. That's the evolution. You stopped trying to fit into rooms that were shrinking you. Now you build doors. You stopped fighting for seats at tables that never respected you. Now you design the table. And the wildest part? You did it without permission. That's what shakes them. You didn't wait for validation. You didn't wait for applause. You didn't wait for the right moment. You decided, and decision is power. Most people live in hesitation. You live in commitment. While they were debating whether you could, you already did. While they were betting against you, you were investing in yourself. That's why their energy shifted. They can't manipulate you anymore. They can't guilt trip you anymore. They can't provoke you the way they used to. You became emotionally untouchable, not cold, controlled. And control is terrifying to people who rely on chaos to win. They played games. You studied the game. You saw the patterns, the fake compliments, the subtle digs, the strategic exclusion, the performative support. And instead of exploding, you detached. Detachment is a superpower. It frees you from needing outcomes. It frees you from fearing loss. It frees you from begging to be chosen. When you no longer need to win their approval, you win your freedom. And freedom changes your posture. You walk differently. You speak differently. You choose differently. You stop asking, will this make them like me? You start asking, does this align with who I'm becoming? That question alone separates you from the crowd. Because becoming requires sacrifice. You sacrificed comfort. You sacrificed certain friendships. You sacrificed the version of yourself that tolerated disrespect just to avoid conflict. And that sacrifice built something unbreakable. Discipline. Now when they try to bait you, you smile. When they try to provoke you, you observe. When they try to compete, you elevate. You're not fighting for position anymore. You're operating from vision, and vision can't be shaken by small minds. Here's the cold truth. They thought they were testing you, but every test revealed their limitations. Every attempt to corner you exposed their insecurity. Every mind game exposed their fear of losing control over someone they once underestimated. You outgrew their understanding. That's why they call you different. Of course you're different. Pressure refines, pain sharpens, isolation strengthens. You didn't survive the storm to remain the same. You rebuilt yourself in the middle of it. Brick by brick, habit by habit, decision by decision. While they were distracted by drama, you were mastering discipline. While they were chasing attention, you were building value. While they were looking for shortcuts, you were building endurance. That's why your presence feels heavy now, not loud, heavy. There's substance behind your silence. There's history behind your calm. There's fire behind your restraint. And here's what they don't realize yet. You're not even finished, this version of you. It's still forming. You haven't hit your peak. You haven't revealed your full capability. You haven't even shown half of what you've been building in the dark. That's the real twist. They thought they were ahead because they were louder. They thought they were winning because they were visible. But visibility without depth fades. Depth without noise lasts. You chose depth. You chose legacy over likes. You chose impact over impressions. You chose mastery over momentary validation. That choice rewired everything. Now when opportunity appears, you're ready. When doors open, you walk in without hesitation. When challenges rise, you don't panic. You calculate. Because you're not playing anymore. You're orchestrating. You don't chase revenge. You build results. And results silence entire rooms. One day they'll look at you and realize the game ended the moment you stopped participating in their version of it. They'll remember how they underestimated you. They'll remember how they thought you were naive. They'll remember how comfortable they felt when you were smaller. And they'll understand. You were never small. You were strategic. They played games. You changed the rules. And now the scoreboard doesn't even apply to you anymore. You're operating in a different league, a different mindset, a different dimension. And the most dangerous part, you're calm about it. And here's where it gets dangerous. Because now you're not just disciplined, you're detached. Detached from the need to respond. Detached from the urge to impress. Detached from the fear of losing people who were never aligned with where you're going. That kind of detachment feels like power in its purest form. You walk into rooms and you don't scan for approval anymore. You don't adjust your tone to make others comfortable. You don't shrink your ideas so fragile egos can breathe. You let them feel it. That quiet intensity, that unbothered presence, that calm that says, I've already survived worse. Because you have. You survived being doubted. You survived being underestimated. You survived being treated like an option. And instead of turning bitter, you turned precise. You started cutting distractions, cutting excuses, cutting habits that kept you average. Average is comfortable. Average is predictable. Average is safe. You are none of those anymore. You became intentional with everything. Your time, guarded. Your energy, filtered. Your circle, earned. That's when things started accelerating. Not because the world suddenly got easier, but because you stopped wasting power on things that didn't matter. You stopped arguing with people who don't read. You stopped explaining yourself to people who don't listen. You stopped proving yourself to people who already decided who you were. And that freed you. Freedom gave you focus. Focus gave you momentum. Momentum made you unstoppable. Now when challenges appear, you don't panic. You analyze. You ask, what's the lesson? Instead of, why me? That shift alone makes you rare. Because most people crumble under pressure. You crystallize. Pressure sharpens you. Doubt fuels you. Silence strengthens you. And the more they try to test you, the more refined you become. They don't realize they're polishing the blade. You don't react emotionally anymore because you understand something deeper. Emotion without control is weakness. Emotion with control is power. You still feel. You just don't flinch. You still care. You just don't chase. You still want more. You just refuse to beg for it. That's growth. Real growth isn't loud celebration. It's quiet confidence. It's walking away without drama. It's choosing peace over ego. It's knowing you could destroy the argument, but choosing results instead. Results are the ultimate response, and your results are starting to speak. Subtle at first. A shift in respect. A change in tone. A hesitation before someone tries to cross you. They sense it. You're not the same. You don't tolerate what you used to. You don't entertain what you used to. You don't fear what you used to, because fear lost its control over you the moment you realized something critical. You've already survived your worst days. So what exactly are you afraid of now? Failure? You failed before and still stood up. Rejection? You've been rejected and still grew. Loneliness? You've walked alone and still built strength. There's nothing left that can break you the way it once did. That's what makes you dangerous. Not anger, not aggression. Stability, unshakable stability. You're not chasing chaos. You're building structure. You're building systems. You're building a version of yourself that doesn't collapse when emotions rise. And that version, it doesn't play games. It sets standards. It sets boundaries. It sets the pace. When you changed the rules, you didn't just change how others see you. You changed how you see yourself. You stopped seeing yourself as someone trying to make it. You started seeing yourself as someone who belongs at the top. That internal shift rewires everything. You negotiate differently. You decide faster. You walk away quicker. Because you understand your worth isn't negotiable. And here's the final twist. You're no longer motivated by proving people wrong. You're motivated by becoming undeniable. That's a different level. Proving people wrong is temporary.